It's time for another edition of Dome and Domer.
Hello again, Irish fans. Welcome back to Dome and Domer, the oldest Notre Dame sports podcast on the planet. I'm your host, Mike Sullivan from the class of 1990, and joining me as always, Mike Brammer, my Dillon Hall roommate from the class of 1990. Bram, today we're going to talk about some trends in the off week, statistical trends, college football playoff trends, and a quick check-in on Irish men's basketball. But before we get to all that, let's look at this date in Notre Dame football history, October 23rd. Bram, I've got a little bit of a riddle for you. We're going to talk about 4 USC games on this date in history, but only 3 games against Southern Cal. So let that kind of work in your brain a little bit. What on earth could that mean? In 1965, October 23rd, 1965, Ara Parseghian gets his first win over the Trojans, 28-7. The Irish were ranked 7th in the country. The Trojans were ranked 4th. Now you got to remember, the year before, Ara's first year in 64, he takes an undefeated Notre Dame team out to the Coliseum, and in heartbreaking fashion, we lose to USC to ruin our national championship aspirations in Ara's first year. So this was sweet revenge for Ara and the Irish in 1965. In 1976, another matchup with USC, but this one, Bram, this was the one I was trying to trick you on. This was against South Carolina, Dan Devine's second team, and the Irish, ranked 12th in the country, go down to South Carolina against the 19th ranked Gamecocks and win a tight one, 13-6. Ultimately, that 76 team, maybe underperformed, but set the stage by winning the Gator Bowl against Penn State 20-6, set the stage for the national championship run the next year. Okay, 1993, we beat Southern Cal on this date, 31-13. Get this, the Irish outrushed the Trojans 305-69. Last Saturday night, we outrushed them 306-68, almost identical rushing numbers. And another game where Notre Dame bullies Southern Cal. We can't have too many of those. We love that. And in 2021, we beat SC 31-16 at home. And you might remember linebacker Bo Bauer picks off a pass, runs it back 79 yards, but gets caught. But we eventually score off that interception. The Irish hang on to win 31-16. So there are other games that happened on October 23rd, but I'm still definitely in a mood to reminisce about thumping USC because it doesn't get any better than that. We love that. Okay, Bram, we're going to talk a little bit about through 7 games, how the Irish look statistically. And more, we've been tracking this the last few weeks. We look like a playoff caliber, championship caliber team in the key statistical areas. Eric Hansen, the great Notre Dame beat writer for blueandgold.com. Eric always looks at these statistics. He's the best in the business. And so I thought we'd take a look at these again this week. Pass efficiency offense. CJ Carr, despite a little bobble against Southern Cal, we're still the 12th ranked pass efficiency offense in the country. That's outstanding. Rushing offense, improving after that 300 plus yard performance. We're 36th in the country in rushing offense. Not elite, but, essentially in the top quartile of college football. Rushing defense is getting to be elite, 21st in the country. And other important statistics for the defense. Pass efficiency defense, we're 40th. Sacks, we're 33rd. Good, not great. Total defense, only 62nd in the country. But we know that's really trending up. We were 78th in the country a year ago. But here's something to keep in mind. 10 of our 12 opponents on this schedule are in the top 50% of college football for offense. And 6 of the 12 are in the top 25. So the defense is ranked 62nd, but we've played some really good offenses and will continue to do so over the course of the schedule, right? And as you look at strength of schedule, it's not always just wins and losses.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time before. It's only a matter of time before, and I assume that we're going to have to start this, but the playoff committee is going to also have to start this as well, and that is the statistics take into account the first 2 games. Let's do the averages after the first 2 games going forward, because I think this is a totally different football team than what you saw those first 2, both running the football in the first two games as well as our defense in the first two games. I think that'll be interesting as they start to compare those statistics, how we did after those first two games. But there'll be plenty
here's
of
one
discussion.
for you. Like the Miami game, we were -2 in turnover margin, right? Didn't get any, had
Yep.
2 turnovers. We're now 8th in the country in turnover margin, right? So that's a good example of the progression of this team and how we're showing dramatic improvement. And the committee's allegedly looks at that kind of improvement. We're going to get to more college football playoff conversation here in a minute. Just some other news and notes from the week. Recruiting continues to heat up and go well. Big weekend last weekend for SC, and picked up a key offensive lineman committed to Notre Dame out of Pennsylvania. Expectations are that weekend will result in several other commitments here before too long. The bad news: Billy Schrauth sprained his knee and will not play against Boston College, and we'll have to see how quickly he can come back from that. Schrauth had a huge game against USC, leading that offensive line to over 300 yards rushing, as we discussed, right? So Schrauth being out, not great. I do think everybody's reporting that they do expect he'll be back for a playoff run. So, all right, now let's turn our conversation to the college football playoffs and where we may fit into all of this. And so, Mike, projecting at 10-2, that's the conversation. And where do you think it shakes out for Notre Dame at 10-2?
Obviously there's a bunch of key games coming up right now. To me, I think the conference to pay attention to is the SEC. I mean, I think all things are going to go through the SEC in terms of Notre Dame's chances here. Because I think that fifth team is where things get dicey for us. Thankfully, the Big Ten looks like they're going to get 3 in and probably no more. I don't know that I see a fourth team from the Big Ten. That then puts all the pressure on the ACC, meaning that they can only have one. And they got one from the ACC, one from the Big 12, and there's your 12 teams, assuming that we get in.
Hold on, let's review that for a minute, right? If the SEC only gets 4, well, the ACC and the Big 12 can pick up an extra one.
Yeah, can pick up an extra one, right? Yeah. Several things would have to happen for the SEC to only get 4. There'd have to be some upsets, let's call it. I don't think Bama's going to lose. I mean, if you just look at Bama's schedule the rest of the season, they got one more tough game, but they got, the Iron Bowl's the Iron Bowl. I get it, but I think that's at home for them. And their other halfway tough game is at home as well. So they got 3 cupcakes besides those 2 games. So Bama's going to probably run out. Georgia's.
Well, listen, Bama's got LSU, Oklahoma, and Auburn. I think they're going to win all those games, but I also wouldn't call those cupcakes either.
I wouldn't say cupcakes, but I don't think this is one of those weird years where LSU just doesn't seem to be LSU. They can't run the football. They are really struggling on the ground, and there's no way you're beating Bama if you can't run the football. So I don't see LSU beaten, but I think that game is at Bama, right?
Yeah, I don't know, but
yeah,
I'm with you. I think Alabama is going to run the table, be 11-1. I think Georgia is going to run the table and be 11-1. And for our sake, let's hope that A&M only loses 1 game the rest of the way, and they're 11-1. I think there are 3 SEC teams that are definitely a lock.
Yeah, definite locks.
And then the question for me is, who are the other 2? I believe the SEC is getting 5 in. Yeah. And I think, you look at Vandy and you look at Ole Miss, and to me, they're the most likely candidates to get in at 10-2. So I'm willing to give the SEC 5 for this hypothetical here. I'm willing to give them 5. I think it's the ACC where if 5 SEC teams get in, it creates problems for us because the ACC might have 2 one-loss teams.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech and Miami. That becomes a problem for us.
Yeah, it does. And we need, so to correct that problem, you need Vandy, Missouri, and Ole Miss to fall to 3 losses. You get 3 losses out of each of those teams. And I don't think you're going to see a 3-loss team in that 5th spot. It's not going to happen.
I agree with that. I agree. And I think Missouri is the most likely to get 3 losses.
Yeah, they got a
They
tough go of it.
they got Vandy, A&M, Oklahoma. They've got 3 games left that I think they could lose all 3 of those games. Yeah, for me, Vandy and Ole Miss, that's where we need to start rooting for them to lose.
Right.
And yeah, the ideal situation is the SEC only gets 4. I'm concerned they're going to get 5.
Yeah.
Now you look at, we talked about the ACC. Hey, let's root against Georgia Tech. Let's root against UVA and hope that UVA is going to get another loss. I don't think they're that good. I think Georgia Tech is pretty good.
Georgia Tech's good. They scare me. They've really played Georgia well the last couple of years. So that game is now, could be up for grabs. And the way Georgia has played this year, they've come from behind multiple times.
I think that game's definitely up for grabs. I think it has huge implications for the playoffs. Georgia Tech should have beat Georgia last year.
Right.
So then, in the Big 12, I think we, like who we root for affects the outcome, right? But it makes you feel good to think that I've got to have a rooting interest here. I've got to do something with my nervous energy. So you've got to root against Texas Tech and Cincinnati, as far as I'm concerned. Like, let BYU run the table. Let them be undefeated and win the Big 12. What we care about is only one Big 12 team gets in, right?
Exactly.
And that means like the runner-up needs to have multiple losses. Okay, so let's look at big games this week that have implications for all this. And certainly Notre Dame has rooting interest in those games we talked about, but also this one, like Baylor and Cincinnati. It wouldn't break my heart to see Cincinnati get another loss. UVA, let's see them lose at Carolina. I don't think Georgia Tech's going to get beat by Syracuse, but that's one to keep an eye on. Here's a big one for the whole country, right? Ole Miss and Oklahoma. What are your thoughts on that big SEC matchup?
Well, I do think Ole Miss is going to win that game. However, Oklahoma, everything's on the line. I mean, Oklahoma's got to win that game if they want to keep their hopes alive. And so I don't.
Well, they both do, right? I mean, they're both sitting there with one loss. I mean, the loser is doesn't have as clear a path to the playoffs.
Yeah, I just don't think that Oklahoma's got what it takes to hold Ole Miss's offense down. As long as Ole Miss is not turning the football over, I'd be surprised that Oklahoma wins that game.
Well, it's strength against strength. Oklahoma's defense is outstanding, and Ole Miss has got a great offense. But, Arkansas should have beat Ole Miss, right? So I'm not sure how good they are. And if you look at those two teams right now, Oklahoma has the better win. They beat Michigan, right? I don't think Mississippi's got to win that good. So I don't know. That's an interesting game. Missouri and Vandy we talked about. I'd like to see Vandy go down. I think that this is their best chance to get a second loss. Missouri, I think, is going to lose because they have a tougher schedule.
Yeah, they got
in my
a tough
opinion.
schedule.
Yeah. And then A&M LSU, for a whole variety of reasons, I think it's clear that we want A&M to win, right? BK is going to get fired if they lose 4 games. I think.
I think so too. I think the pressure will it'll overwhelm him if they have 4 losses before they even get to the end of the season.
They didn't. You look back to the Franklin situation, at Penn State. Like, LSU didn't pay $90, $100 million, whatever it was, to miss the playoffs 4 straight years and have 3-4 losses a year. That's not why they paid him that money. And if Penn State can be impatient with the guy that was very close to going to the national championship game last year, LSU certainly is not going to have patience for Brian Kelly, I don't think. But okay, let's look at games involving Notre Dame opponents. Stanford at Miami. Stanford beat Florida State last week. I don't think they're going to beat another Florida team. BC at Louisville. BC's a shambles right now. NC State at Pitt. Okay, this is an interesting game. We need Pitt to win the next 2 so that they come in. I think if they're 7-2 going into our game, they're going to be ranked, and that's another opportunity for a ranked win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for now, we absolutely need Pitt and Navy to just continue to accumulate wins to get into the top 25 so that we can have 2 more ranked teams at least. And that would bode well for us, especially if we do really well offensively and defensively in those 2 games.
Yeah, I think Navy's going to come in undefeated. There always seems to be a little bit of a double standard when it comes to Navy, Army, and Navy. So, if Memphis came into South Bend, 9-0 or whatever the Navy's record will be at that point, they would clearly be ranked and people would be talking about them as a playoff contender from the group of 5. Why is nobody saying this about Navy, right? I mean, they're playing the same conference, and Navy's going to come in undefeated into that game against us. So anyway, good opportunity for us to pick up 2 more ranked wins with Pitt and Navy winning out until they play us. Okay. So, open date this week, so not a lot of football news to talk about. Let's turn our attention to, we'll start with men's basketball. Next week, we'll take a look at women's basketball. But let's talk about men's basketball and what a pivotal year this is for Coach Shrews.
Yeah, I think it is. I know there's been some frustrations for the basketball fans, which you and I are one. I mean, at least we pay attention to what's going on. But a lot of fans kind of turned it off last year, especially when Burton got hurt. I think it just right from there, you just knew it was not going to end up well. But I do think this is going to be really, really interesting because I think Shrewsbury finally has some people on the court that can do some damage. And I really like him as a coach. I think when he was at Penn State, he got his guys to play at a higher level than you would anticipate with the roster that he had. It wasn't like he had studs there, but man, they were tough to play year in and year out. And I think he's finally got what he's wanted.
Well, what is it exactly? It's not like we went to the transfer portal and loaded up on plug and play talent. So
well, I think
why do you say that?
First off, I think Burton is legit. I think he's probably one of the top point guards in the country. He's a scorer. He's one of those few guys that has that killer mentality where he does not fear anybody. Literally.
He's fantastic. But here's the starting 5. Burton, Little Shrews, Sir Muhammad, Kebajai. All 4 of those guys started last year. So the only new guy is Jalen Harrelson, the freshman. And I'm just not sure how much we can expect the team to be that much better when we're just talking about inserting a freshman.
But these freshmen are very highly recruited freshmen. Okay, so
Harrelson's a McDonald's All-American, no question about it, right?
So these are guys that can come off the bench and contribute this year. I think they're going to slowly work their way into a lot of playing time because I think that'll take a lot of pressure. There's a couple of good shooters of those 4 freshmen. There's one's a dagger shooter. The other, I thought the other kid also averaged over 20 points.
Well, okay, the Kohler kid from Indianapolis, I think he's sort of a guy that does a lot of things for you, and he's going to get some time as the season progresses. The big kid out of Minnesota, he's hurt, and we're not going to see him for a while. I don't know how long. And then you've got another sort of swingman in, I think Divine is his name. I can't remember now. So I don't know, other than Harrelson, that you have instant impact in the freshman class. I don't think you do.
Yeah, but I think Harrelson's right away. I mean, look, last year Burton had nobody to go to. Literally, it was him. So there was no other scoring threat on our starting 5 besides Burton. He was the only guy that could take his guy to the hole.
Well, okay, Little Shrews had a great year. He had a breakout year last year.
He did. He can shoot it, and I thought he got way better as the season went on. But I think when you add Harrelson to that mix, I just think it's going to open things up for Burton. I think Burton will be able to drive it and kick it out to these guys that'll put that in the, when you start banging those shots down, that's what opens it up for Burton and will give him more opportunities for him to drive and score. Now, I would assume Burton has also been working on his outside shot. I mean, I think that's about the only thing in his game that's, not all the way there yet. But man, he's unbelievable going to the basket.
What I'd like, he's clearly one of the best in the country getting the rim. He can get his shot whenever he wants, no question about it. I think last year we played way too much, stand around and watch Burton do his thing. Yeah. And in just reading some preseason articles, Coach Shrews has alluded to, you'll see a little different style of offense from us. I think everybody's talking about Sir Muhammad being healthy, a year older, more physically developed, and his skill set he can do a lot. Like anytime he shot from the perimeter last year, you had to avert your eyes. But he is known as a guy who can stretch a defense and knock down some jump shots. He didn't last year, but again, everybody says he was never fully healthy. I think what we're going to have to see is more consistent outside shooting. And can we establish any kind of low post scoring threat? Kebajai, he could clean up the defensive glass. Can anybody score in the paint when we need a bucket in the paint? And to me, that's a big question. Again, the freshman kid from Minnesota, hopefully he develops into some of that. And the transfer from Northern Arizona, Carson Tout, what can he give you? I don't know. I think that's a real big question mark for the team.
It's probably going to be a slow start for us. I mean, I would assume that we'll get things ironed out as the season goes on. We're not going to come out of the gate and just start beating people left and right. I agree with you there, but I just think that this team has way more opportunities to make a run at it. I think they got a shot at making a tournament. I think there's a real good shot there.
Well, let's talk about
it's
that.
Going to matter how much they progress.
Let's talk about that non-conference schedule, right? So we got, I think, Ohio State, Missouri, TCU. Who am I missing? There are 4 Power 4 schools in the preseason. You've got to get. You got to get at least 2 of those if we're going to have a shot.
You got to get
right?
2. You got to get.
You got to get. Rutgers is the other one. I think you got to get at least 2 of those. You can't stub your toe on the mid-major portion of the schedule.
Right.
And then you get into the ACC. We're projected to be middle of the pack. 9th, 10th, and is that enough to get you in as a bubble team? I would love to see that. That's my expectation for the team, is that we're in the conversation. We're kind of a bubble team this year. To me, that would be a huge step forward. What are your expectations for the program, Bram? When you think Notre Dame basketball being successful, what does that look like?
Well, it's a tough one. I think Notre Dame's a place where you could win a national championship in the grand scheme of things right now today. However, it would take something special, right? You would have to find the right kind of coach that can bring in the right kind of players. I mean, Shrewsbury brought in 4 top 100 players. So
10th ranked recruiting class, right? Think about that. That's amazing.
That is. And in basketball, it's a lot different than in football. Like in football, you've got to be top 10 or better year in and year out. You can have maybe that one year where you fill a bunch of gaps, and then maybe your overall recruiting class isn't all that great, but you covered a bunch of gaps, and that effectively is the same thing. But you've got to repeatedly be around that 10th or higher. In basketball, I don't think you have to be that. You don't have to be in the top 10 to win a national championship. You're going to need a combination of some good recruiting classes, but then that overall, it's only 5 guys that can be on the court at one time, right? So you need that kind of continuity of the team and the culture and all that. And I think Shrewsbury has a shot at that. I
love Shrewsbury. I think he is a great coach and a great fit for Notre Dame. I'm concerned that, like in football, I think we've never been as well positioned to win a national championship as we are now. Got to go all the way back to the Holtz era. I think the way the environment is and who Notre Dame is and what we have to offer, I love our positioning. Basketball, I'm a little concerned about. Like, I don't know that and I say this out of complete ignorance, I don't know that we have the money to compete in the NIL space in basketball like we do in football. And, schools like Notre Dame.
Well, I don't think
I'm not sure.
I don't know that our facilities are up to speed either in terms of what these other bigger programs have. So there's probably a little bit of that too. But in any event, Shrewsbury got a top class. I mean, that's not easy to do, to be 10th. And so he's doing something right. And
absolutely.
If he can just have a little bit of success, I think he's the kind of guy that can build off of that and put himself in a position. Look, as a Notre Dame fan, I'd love to win it. I think that is maybe a little bit more than what we should be expecting. But I think Notre Dame's capable of getting to the Final 8, the Final 4. We did it with Bray. We didn't get to the Final 4, but we got to the Final 8 twice.
A reasonable expectation for us to be in the tournament every year and to, make, the occasional deep run.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, hey, anything can happen, right? And
That's right.
Anything can happen. But, the reality is, though, if you want to fill out your brackets, just put all 4 number 1 seeds, in the Final Four. You're probably going to do really well because the top teams are going to dominate ultimately and win the championships. So I'm not sure that's my expectation for the program, but it is be in the tournament and occasionally make a deep run. I think Shrews can do that. I'd love to see us have enough success this year to keep that recruiting momentum going. And that's my hope for the year. I think guys like Cole Serta, Sundra, how these guys develop this year and allow us to be 7, 8 deep. Yeah. That's going to be I think you got to stay healthy. Then we need those other guys to step up.
To make the tournament, you got to be 8 deep. You can't be less than that. It's just not possible in the world of college basketball right now. So you got to be 8 deep. You might even arguably need to be 9 deep. I mean, you look at North Carolina, Duke, these guys, they're all 9 deep. They're not.
Well, listen, we're going to rotate 9 bodies through there. So that's not the threshold is, do we have 9 bodies that can play competitively at a high D1 level in the ACC?
That's right. Well, you can't, right. You can't have that let up when you do. Burton comes off the floor, which he rarely does. I mean, I think he's going to average 36, 34 a game. He's going to have to. I just don't think we can win without that. But other than him, you'd like to see the other guys mix it up and get, 28, somewhere around there.
Right. And the bench, these have to be productive minutes, not just, empty minutes. But so here are some of the things that people are talking about that are excited about with the program. That conditioning, strength and conditioning being a real asset. Guys are visibly look bigger and like they're in better shape. Hopefully that's the case. Hopefully that we catch a break on injuries. We're longer, right? Defensively, we should be better.
Yeah.
These freshmen are all kind of long athlete types. And, Muhammad is long. Harrelson is long. Kohler is a guy that gets after it with some length. So these are all like a different kind of roster, physically different bodies, and the bodies look better than they did last year. So those are some of the things people are saying around the program. And I'm excited. There's nothing, honestly, I love it when we're good in basketball and the Joy Center is packed and the atmosphere is back. It's been far too long since we've had that.
Yeah,
so
that's tough.
Yeah,
I think Harrelson's going to surprise. I'm looking forward to that. I think he's going to surprise people. I think he's better than what people think. So I think he physically looks really good, and it's just the way he moves. I saw a couple clips of him already, and he's a severe talent. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's going to play right now. He's going to start from day one, no question about it. All right, so we're going to be covering basketball throughout the season on Dome and Domer, and deep into January and February, and hopefully March, we'll be talking Irish hoops as the season progresses. So we're going to wrap it up there. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy our conversations about Notre Dame sports. For Mike Brammer, I'm Mike Sullivan. We'll see you next time on Dome and Domer.